In this video, we are going to identify the trigonometric identities. We start with the reciprocal identities. Secant theta is the same as 1 over cosine of theta. Cosecant of theta is the same as 1 over sine of theta. And then cotangent of theta is 1 over tangent of theta. And then tangent of theta, the quotient identities, is given by sine of theta over cosine of theta. And then cotangent of theta is given by cosine of theta over sine of theta. So here I'm going to derive the Pythagorean identities. I have the x and y coordinate. So I know this is 90 degrees, so I can write x squared plus y squared is equals to 1, or radius squared, which is 1, because the radius is 1. It's a unit circle. Now in place of x, I'm going to use cosine of theta. So I'm going to write cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta is equals to 1. And this is one of the Pythagorean identities. So that's number 1. I'm going to use this identity to derive the others. So how am I going to do that? I'm going to start with, let me derive the identity cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta is equals to 1. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to divide everything by cosine. If I divide everything, I'm not changing the equation. It's just going to give me something different. Cosine squared theta divided by cosine squared theta cosine squared theta. And what do I get when I do that? I get, so here this becomes 1 plus sine over cosine is the same as tan. So this is tan squared theta. 1 over cosine is the same as secant squared theta. And that gives me another identity. So I have 2 identities right now. I'm going to use the first one to derive. So this is number 1. This is number 2. I still need one more identity, so I'm going to still use the first Pythagorean identity. So I'm going to write it here. Cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta is equals to 1. This time I'm going to divide by sine squared theta, sine squared theta over sine squared theta. So now here this gives me cosine over sine, gives me cotangent squared theta plus 1 is equals to 1 over sine squared is cosecant squared theta. And that is my third Pythagorean identity. So now we shall be using these identities to simplify trigonometric expressions in later videos. In this video, we are going to simplify Trig expressions. So I'm given sine of x. I cannot break that anymore, but I can break secant, which is the same as sine over cosine. So I have here sine of theta, and we are going to multiply by secant, which is the same as 1 over cosine of theta. So when I multiply this together, I get sine theta over cosine of theta. And sine over cosine is the same as tan of theta. Okay, we got the next one. We have secant of theta divided by cosecant of theta. So this one is going to be, I can be able to break the secant. So secant is the same as 1 over cosine of theta. And we are dividing that by 1 over sine of theta. And remember, this is the same as 1 over cosine of theta. And I can multiply, and then I flip the denominator, sine of theta, or simply just multiplying by the reciprocal. And this gives me sine theta over cosine of theta, and this is tan theta. Okay, let's go to the next one. And the next one, I'm given cosine squared theta plus 1 plus tan squared theta. And I know one of the Trig Pythagorean identities, Pythagorean identities I need to remember is 1 plus tan, let me rewrite it again. 1 plus tan squared theta is equals to secant squared theta. So I need to remember that. And knowing that, now I can come here. So this will be cosine squared theta. And I'm going to be multiplying that by secant squared theta. So this is cosine squared theta. And it's going to be multiplied by 1 over cosine squared theta. And when we simplify that, we're going to get 1. Okay, we got the next one. So we're given tan of theta, which is equal to sine theta over cosine of theta. And we are multiplying that by cosecant of theta, which is the same as 1 over sine of theta. And this divides out, so we get 1 over cosine of theta, which is the same as secant of theta. Okay, the next one, tan is the same as sine of theta over cosine of theta. We're going to multiply that by cosine of theta, and then we multiply by cosecant of theta, which is the same as sine of theta. And when we simplify that, see that cancels out, so we are left with 1. Okay, we have another one here. And we have cotangent, and I see 1 minus cosine squared. This should make me remember that cosine squared theta plus sine squared theta is equals to 1. So that means 1 minus, if I take 1 minus cosine squared, should give me sine squared. So here I have cotangent theta, and I'm multiplying by I'm multiplying by, so 1 over 1 minus cosine, so sine squared theta. Remember, cotangent is the same as cosine theta over sine theta, and I'm multiplying this by sine squared theta. And remember, when I have these two, see, this will cancel with one of the sine, so I'm going to get cosine theta sine theta. And that's the simplest form. I cannot be able to break that anymore. Okay, we go to the next one. And here you see secant and tan. So I need to write the trig identity, which says that 1 plus tan squared theta is equals to secant squared theta. And I need to put that aside. And then, so this is going to be, so this is secant minus tan, so it's going to be 1 minus 1, which is going to be 0. Okay, so here I have another one, and I'm given sine, so I'm going to break it down. So sine so this is going to be sine x over sine x cosine x plus cosine x over sine x cosine x. And see, this cancels out, and I'm left with 1 over cosine of x plus 1 over sine of x. And this will be the same as secant of x plus cosecant of x.